welcome to this live stream. I think everything's working here right now. So my name is Keith, and I am going to be your host here for a few minutes. We are going to talk about the HyperDeck. Let me bring up the slide here so you can kind of see where we're going. Image slideshow right here. So we are going to be talking about this equipment and the HyperDeck. I've talked about the Hdmi Mini Pro and the HyperDeck, but tonight we're going to talk about the HyperDeck specifically. I want to share how it works, a little bit of the wiring diagram here in the studio, kind of how it interjects or interlinks with the Hdmi Mini Pro. It will work for the Hdmi Mini. It would also work for the Hdmi Mini Pro ISO. But here you have a picture of the HyperDeck Mini, kind of my opening graphic. Also, I had Batman and Robin up there, so I hope you enjoyed that with the timer. First time I've used a timer on a live stream. But this is the front and the back of the Hdmi or the HyperDeck Mini, and they make two versions of this. They make a bigger version, it's a lot more expensive. This is kind of the one that most people will use. It's a transport deck. I actually worked in a broadcasting TV station here locally years ago, and we had the tape decks, and you'd put a big tape in, and you would be able to basically roll the tape forward and back, and I could cut from one tape to the other tape. Doing a transition just like you do transitions now. I just did a transition going from the slideshow in OBS to the picture I am right now. This is the 5D Mark IV shooting on this side on channel 2 behind me, or actually channel 1 behind me. I have this shot, and so I could go back and forth to show different parts of the studio. I also have the Logitech camera that's plugged into my laptop, which I can show you the Batman and Robin, well, the Batmobile, and I'm also going to use that as a close-up to my Stream Deck here shortly. Again, I am Keith. This is going to be about the HyperDeck Mini, and we're going to talk about how to use the alpha channel, how to use the graphics, also to play intro reels, which I've already demoed. But I really want to focus in on the HyperDeck and give you a little bit more of a breakdown on that deck. I want to operate it right here in front of you. I can also share my screen. So let me bring that up here real quickly. Bring that over here. So I'll be able to show you the settings and be able to demo all of the settings in here. You can see I have these videos ready to play. This is in disc 1, and then I can switch discs, which I'll show you how to do that. But first I want to go over a couple slides. So we'll come back to my photograph, drop back in this lower thirds, bring it over to the program view, and just make sure everything is streaming here. Yeah, it looks like we are streaming. We are live. So again, I hope this video helps you out. We're going to take a look at the HyperDeck. So right now I have this Logitech camera. Let me bring it up here again and show you that I'm using OBS, so I can use USB cameras. I can use these high definition cameras, 5D Mark IV there, EOS R mirrorless back here. And I also have a Canon 5D Mark III that I use right up here. You can see just the edge of that camera that I can shoot down on my desk. I am using channel 4 for an alpha channel tonight for the HyperDeck, so we're not going to shoot down at my desk. That's why I'm going to use the Logitech camera. And so I'll bring that Logitech camera down right now. So what I like to do is put it on a ball head. It's a very heavy ball head, so I can just set this on my desk and aim this at different directions. So we're going to aim it right here at the HyperDeck. So you'll be able to see that, and I'll bring that camera up here. Let me adjust that before we make it live. Again, using one of my desktop cameras. So let's bring these over. So here is the HyperDeck Mini, and I'm just using my Logitech camera. And I'll adjust the lights here in the room here in a minute, and it'll get you a little bit better picture of that. But I have this set up so that we can play videos on this, and you'll be able to see the graphics. It's a very tiny screen, and we'll come back to that in a second. So that's going to be our shot on the Logitech, on the HyperDeck. And we'll come, again, like I said, we'll come back to that. Right now I want to bring up the slideshow here. So these are some of the tools I have here in the studio. We've talked about those a little bit earlier. We have 3 videos already posted. On top of that, we have the HDMI Mini streaming bridge, which I will allude to tonight. It's not in this picture right now, the slide that's up. We'll come back to that slide. So here's kind of how I have things wired tonight. So you have the HDMI Mini up there. It's not the Pro. That's a picture of the HDMI Mini, and you can use it. You can use the HDMI Mini Pro. You can use the HDMI Mini ISO. And you can see that I have the back of the HDMI Mini, and all the backs of all 3 are identical. Starting left to right, you have power, then you have Ethernet port, then you have USB-C, then you have the HDMI out. Again, that on the Mini will only show you the program view. You have multi-view in the HDMI Mini Pro and ISO, and then you can switch on the different buttons on the face of the ISO and the Pro. You can switch between the different inputs, and so you have the HDMI input, then you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 HDMI inputs. So this has 4 inputs in it, so you can bring 4 cameras in, or you could bring your laptop into one of those HDMI inputs, and they automatically will detect what you're putting in there. And so far, they've worked really great. Anytime I plug a camera in or plug a laptop in, I even plugged the HDMI out back in so people can see the multi-view screen. I did that in my last video. So 4 inputs, then you have 2 audio inputs. So let's go over how I have the HyperDeck hooked up. And you can notice that I have 2 SDI to HDMI converters. And the reason I have 2 of those is that the back of the HyperDeck has 2 outputs. It has an A channel and a B channel. Let me change slides here and I'll show you that a little closer. So here is the back of the HyperDeck, and left to right you have the power input. Next to that you have USB-C on the top. That is for programming it and making changes. You can't stream out of it like you can on the HDMI Mini Pro and the HDMI Mini ISO and the HDMI Mini. Below that you have Ethernet, so you can hook it up to a network. You can control it. It will work with your HDMI Minis as well as other gear by Blackmagic Design. So next to that you have the 2 outlets. Just that's for bringing a bunch of HyperDecks together. Next to that you have the control. You can control it through that bottom jack. There's lots of little controllers that you can use that to operate the HyperDeck. And so it's a serial port, so you can plug into that. And then above that's the HDMI out, so that gives you a monitor out. And then on the top you have A and B. So the first channel A, SDI out, will let you do your main video output. So you can come out the video HDMI output, and you can come out from channel A, and you get the same basic picture. What happens is if you add the alpha channel, which is the B input, now you have the ability to do fly-in graphics in the middle of your broadcast on an HDMI Mini. You can also do graphics on in OBS, but if you wanted to stream exclusively from one of the HyperDecks, then you would be able to play videos and fly-in graphics, lower thirds, animations, and all of that from the HyperDeck, but you have to use channel A and B because B is an alpha channel. And that's really where we're going tonight, to focus a little bit on that and how you would get your videos ready by rendering them with an alpha channel. And I'm going to show and demonstrate that in a later video. And there are some videos out there on YouTube to help you understand how to render a video in Adobe Premiere. You can do it also in After Effects and a number of other programs as well. Final Cut Pro, I believe you can render out an alpha channel. And that alpha channel actually lets you cut out the background in your animations, so you get a better, crisper background, you get better see-through graphics, and with animations, you really want to have an alpha channel. Anything that's moving on the screen or has shadows or has it's transparent, it does a lot better with an alpha channel. This gives you kind of a diagram of the back of the HyperDeck and each one of those outlets. And so you can copy this from your YouTube video and snap a screenshot, and that may help you. But this slide I put together today to kind of go through the SDI to HDMI converter. And you need to have that because you come out of your HyperDeck and channel A and B SDI and it has to be converted to HDMI, so you can go into two of the ports in your Hdmi Mini Pro. And I'm going to switch to that screen real quickly. So you can see here I'm coming out of the back of the HyperDeck out of channel A and B. They're each going into, the yellow lines are the SDIs going into the converters, and in the back of the converters, they're on the top of the middle of the screen. So you have the ability to come out HDMI, and then I went into channel 1 with channel A and channel 4 with channel B, and that gives me the ability to play animations. And so you have to convert it. And if you wanted to record from the HyperDeck, which we're not going to demonstrate tonight, you can also record from the HyperDeck. It'll record up to 30 frames per second, 4K. And you would have to come out of your camera, and you'd have to get like a 6G converter from Blackmagic Design or someone else to make sure you maintain that 30 frames per second 4K signal. And then you could go back into this bottom jack on the HyperDeck. So this bottom jack that I have in kind of lavender, it says recording input. That's where you would plug in your SDI cable and send into the HyperDeck the signal it needs to have to be able to record 4K. You could just use a regular HDMI to SDI converter to get 1080p, and it would be, you'd have an option at a bunch of different codecs, ProRes, H.264. There's lots of different codecs that you can record in the HyperDeck Mini. So up above, you can see the little picture again. Let's go to the bigger shot. You have two discs in the front face of the HyperDeck. You have two SD card inputs, and you can literally push both these cards in. It's only going to pick up the first card it reads. So I could pop out card 1 and plug in card 2, which we're going to do tonight, and it would automatically detect the files that are in there. In order to prepare files for the HyperDeck, they all have to be in the same format, same frame rate, in order for it to recognize them, and that recognition will be inside your HyperDeck and then also inside your control software from Blackmagic Design. So we're going to look at that here in just a minute, but I want to go to this screen again and show you that you have Ethernet out, the USB-C out, and they're all labeled. You have a small screen, so I will actually run out of the HyperDeck. In this slide, you can see I'm coming out of the back of the HyperDeck there on the bottom center. I'm coming out of the HDMI into a Portkeys BM5 monitor. And then I also come out of the back of the Hdmi Mini to my ICANN 7-inch monitor, and that's so I can see the multi-screen, and I can switch over to program view. I can switch over to camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, or camera 4 if I want to. But the HyperDeck screen's so small, I use my port keys monitor in order to be able to see what is playing from the HyperDeck. Okay, so now let's go back to our main camera here. And I'll get back in front of you again. So thanks for the patience of going through those slides. I'm back on my ATM Mini, and I'm doing that by using the USB-C port out of the back. I'm using it as a webcam. I've brought it into OBS. I could also stream directly from it if I wanted to, but tonight, because we're doing this stream differently, I need to be able to use OBS so I can have more channels like the Logitech camera, 1080p camera. So behind me, you can see my setup here. I've got my EOS R, and we'll turn on the port keys monitor here. That should fire up. And I have my room set up so I can go both ways. I have this bigger monitor, so when I'm shooting this direction, I can see my audio's good. I have audio follow video on. And then you can see right here, I have the main graphic channel, and then I have the alpha channel. And you can see them because I'm plugged into camera, input 3 and 4. Add a little bit more light here. So you're going to be able to see these graphics here in a second. I know it's not completely in focus, but I want you to see that there is a regular channel. So if I was just going to play a video clip, I could play it right here in channel 3, and I can switch from it, and it'll just automatically play because I have it set up in the HyperDeck to automatically play. And that's why I like it, because I can just hit transition and it's automatically going to play. But because I have the alpha channel set up, now I'm going to get better flying graphics. And so to illustrate these graphics, let me switch over here to ATM control software. And I can turn this graphic on right now and let it run. And so that's an animated graphic with an alpha channel. Hit it again, and it'll run. And again, that's an animation, and I'm playing that through the HyperDeck. Now I know that's over me. I can also play the lower thirds in the right-hand corner. And again, that has the alpha channel in the back. Let me get rid of this and play that again. And the nice thing about this, I can hit the on-air button and it plays. Can't show you both of those at the same time, but I can bring up the software. So what I'm doing is I'm just pushing this on-air button. If you go over here to the palettes and you go down right here under the downstream key, I have this set up so that, and I have labeled channel 3 and 4 in my software to be HyperDeck fill and key. So I can switch these back to cameras if I wanted to. But right now I'm using it to do these animated graphics. So I have fill source on my downstream key to be HyperDeck fill, and then key source to be HyperDeck key. And then when I turn this graphic on and off, it plays. And I choose which graphic I want right here. So I also have a little particle explosion that I created. And I'll play that. It just comes down and hits. And I just made that in After Effects. And again, that has a, if you look here over my shoulder, you have it coming down. take over focus here. So right here I have the alpha channel in channel 4, and I have the regular graphic in channel 3. And when I hit the on button, that graphic comes down. Same as if I hit this logo graphic, it plays automatically, and you can see over here I'm getting the alpha channel, and over here I'm getting the graphics. So this alpha channel helps it just to look crisper and more clean. And then I also created this little fly-in graphic just for the pure fun of it. And you can see the graphic, and you can see what I see when I'm watching this when I'm on the air, so I can make sure everything's working correctly. You can also see that it's playing up in my Portakeys monitor. This is also playing my multi-view, and this is playing my multi-view, so this gives me kind of more of a view of it. And so I have two options. I can also switch this TV over, so it's great because I can switch this TV over to a monitor input, and it'll pop up a graphic that I have for my other broadcasts, and that's just an extension of my screen. So I can also do this. And when I'm setting up my cameras and I'm doing focusing and all those things that you do to get ready, I'll go over to that specific camera, and now you have the infinity look. So I did that by going to the Hdmi Mini and just choosing one of the buttons on the front, and I'll show you those here right now. So let's bring up. Logitech full, looks like it's on. So right here, you have the buttons on the front of the Hdmi. And let me switch over to that camera. And so it's a better shot of it. These are the different choices for what camera I want. That's video input number 1, video input number 2, video input number 3, which would be the graphic. That would be the alpha channel. And then I have multi-view, and there's the multi-view. Here is the program view. Here is camera 1, camera 2. Let's play a graphic so you can see this. The main graphic channel and the alpha channel. So what's really cool about this is that, let's go back to multi-view, and I'm in camera 2, Logitech. So it plays right on the front. I hope you can see that decently. I'm playing on the graphic. I apologize for the Logitech camera. It's not that great. And so I have two discs here. I have disc 1 in. So if I pop disc 1 out, stop. And you got these toggle controls on the front. I'll pop out disc 1 and put in disc 2. And it's automatically going to detect the video I have on here from my wife's podcast. If I hit play, there it is playing. See, it's playing in the program view. It over to you. So with the alpha channel, you can do those lower third graphics, and I can even bring those into, as you can see here, to OBS. So if I just wanted to play my lower thirds, I can pop that on right now as we're broadcasting, and I'm sending it through my Hdmi Mini into a camera input in OBS, and then it's playing on the screen. And I could hit it again if I wanted it to play again, or if I had some other little bullet like a subscribe bullet, I could just hit it like that. I could switch cameras now to my camera 1 and lay the same graphic over it because I'm just using the on air button. And the graphic is automatically, every time I hit the on and off, the on air button, it just starts over again. And so there's no music to this graphic, but I can continue playing it. Or I can just end that one, go to my larger graphic, and I could roll that like at the end of a video. So having the channel A from the back of the HyperDeck and the channel, let's switch back to camera 1. Having the 2 channels coming out of the HyperDeck going into channel 3 and 4 in my Hdmi Mini. Lights out of control here again. Gives me the ability to have fly-in graphics. If I don't have that alpha channel hooked up, then the graphics just don't look as crisp. If I just put a title on the screen without any shading or anything like that, or it would be okay. And people are doing that all the time with just the regular graphics in the Hdmi Mini Pro, ISO, and Mini by using the media pool. And that media pool again is right under this menu. So on the bottom, you can go to media pool, and then you have all of these different graphics that you can drop in, and you can display those on the screen as well through the switcher. And I can pop those graphics up by hitting the on the air button, and then I'm transitioning to that graphic. I've got to turn this off so you can see it. Get my mouse over here. So I can put that graphic up, and it's just a static graphic. It's a still. I can turn it off and on. I'm behind it on camera 2. So I can go back to camera 1 tonight is this camera, and camera 2 is that camera behind me. So I can use that media pool to drop in any of those graphics, and you can do that again by just dragging and dropping those graphics in. So I can go to the media pool, and I can drag and drop these graphics right down into here, and they will populate this screen right here. So whatever I drop down in there, if I have it live, they're going to go live. So if I have this on-air button on, they're going to be live. And I'll turn this off again so you can see behind me. Turn that graphic off. Transition over here. So this is the program that you're seeing right now. This is the preview screen. And down here is my graphic. If I want to make that live, I'm going to disappear here. I'm going to hit the live button right up here, which is this button again. And that's going to change this right now to that graphic. Off the air, on the air, off the air, on the air. And so that's my upstream key. I'm using my downstream key, which is right over here in the software. This is my downstream key, and those settings are right here. So under palettes, you can go from the upstream key, which is my media player, which I just showed you. Down here is my downstream key, and that's operated by here. And the media player is operated right here. I'm using this because I like some of these buttons. I like the auto button that's right here. So I can turn this on and set whatever length fade I want, and I can have the graphic fade out. I'll demonstrate that right now by turning this off. So if I want to bring up a graphic, I can hit this auto button, it'll auto fade out, and I can set the time of that. Right now it's 1 second, auto fade out. So I like that I can auto fade these out as they play. And right now I just have them all playing. Lower thirds, same thing on the air, but I could hit auto fade out. I can also prepare it like this and auto fade onto the air. So I really like the options on that downstream key for doing graphics, especially for demoing this tonight. So turn that back off. So I could just leave that lower thirds on. So I could run it and then just simply pause it right here. And I could leave that on the bottom of my screen. As long as I do not shut off the downstream key, then that graphic is going to stay up during our broadcast. So again, you have the ability to do the alpha channel, do fly-in graphics. It's great for doing intro videos and things like that on the HyperDeck. Again, you can play those. I'm using my downstream key right now. I usually play my intro and outro reels off of my downstream key as well. So I'm not going to demo that, but that's in disc 2. So I can have disc 1 in the HyperDeck. Let me bring up the display here again. Let's bring up the slideshow. So I could, again, those 2 discs, SD cards, I could record to those and hot swap. So you would record to card 1, and when it fills up, it automatically switches over to card 2. Once it would switch over to card 2 when you're recording, then you would just simply switch cards and start again. Pop my little picture-in-picture view in here. So you could just swap cards, push the button in, and push the button out when you wanted to play different videos. So I could use all the videos on clip 1, and then I switched to clip 2 for graphics, so I could have all my intro graphics on disc 1, all my outro graphics on disc 2 to just organize things. Or I could just put them all on a large card on card 1. If I'm recording, I can hot swap. Again, once card 1's full, you could switch over to card 2. So you could record up to 30 frames per second, 4K on it, as long as you have a 4K signal going into it. Or you can use it like I primarily use the HyperDeck for, and that's playing graphics and playing intro reels. You could do a lot of that stuff. You could use it for a intro clock if you wanted to. So if you had a graphic that counted down from 5 minutes to 0, you could use that as a lower thirds graphic. There's also the ability to do that like I did tonight inside OBS. But mostly when I want to stream, unless I'm doing these training videos, I don't want to use OBS. It just adds one more layer. I want to be able to do everything from my desk right here as much as I can. So here is my wiring diagram again. You have 2 cameras hooked up tonight, 2 channels going into my HyperDeck or from my HyperDeck into my ATEM Mini Pro. I have obviously power hooked up. I have the Ethernet port in both the ATEM Mini Pro and the HyperDeck are hooked up into my network, so I can communicate to them from my laptop, so I could run the software, control software, and operate the ATEM Mini Pro without touching it, and operate the HyperDeck without touching it. And I also, the ATEM Mini Pro communicates with the HyperDeck, which is really, really important. So let me take my lower thirds off here. So you see 2 cameras there. I have the Canon 5D Mark III, I think in this picture, and 4 on the ESR and the 5D Mark IV. So those are the 2 cameras I'm using tonight. You can see coming out of the back of the HyperDeck, I have a HDMI cable going to my port keys BM5, and I did a video on that here on the channel. On the top middle right, I have my ICANN monitor, and that monitors the HDMI output of the ATEM Mini Pro, so I can see what's in the multi-view. I can also see what I have on the program view. I can look at channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4 to do focusing. It has focus peaking and false color built into that monitor, and we'll talk more about that. So I can really get things dialed in on all my cameras by using those switches, and that's why I would highly recommend you getting a Pro, ATEM Mini Pro or ATEM Mini ISO. I love the options to be able to choose which one of those inputs that I want to see, plus the multi-view obviously is a huge thing. Plus the ATEM Mini Pro and ISO lets you be able to stream directly out of the Ethernet port. It has an H.264 encoder inside of it, so it encodes that. You can go out to Facebook and all the other streaming sites, YouTube. So continue with this display. You see that I have two SDI to HDMI converters, and that's how I'm converting the SDI out A and B out of the back of the HyperDeck over to HDMI to the back of channel 3 and 4 in my ATEM Mini Pro. So I'm using a Asus ZenBook Pro Duo. It's got an i9 in it with a 260 NVIDIA card, which gives me the ability to do some really good rendering, fast rendering. It's got dual monitors. I really like this laptop. Runs kind of hot. It's, you know, you're getting into some pretty hot laptops these days. But what I like about it, and you can see here on the screen, when you open the monitor, the back of it lifts it from the ground. So you literally create airflow underneath your laptop when you open it up. When you close it, it actually closes down to the top of the desk. And when you lift it, it's ingenious. I love that feature. It gives you more airflow underneath your laptop. So everywhere I go, I have airflow underneath my laptop, and you can still put a cooler underneath it. So the HyperDeck is a great resource for you if you want to take your video game to the next level, in my opinion. And I would highly recommend it. I would tell you that, in my opinion, it does everything that I expected to do. It's had some good firmware updates, and they've added new codecs. You can, like I said, you can do lots of recording. One of the things just to keep in mind, again, whatever you render to it that you want to have an alpha channel, you have to render those videos with an alpha channel, and everything that you want to play from it has to be the same frame rate, same size. So if you're going to do a 1080p show, you would have everything 1080p, 29.9 frames a second, or you could do whatever frame rate, but all of your files that you put in the HyperDeck have to match, or it won't read them. It'll just read, it'll choose one and it'll read that and won't read all of those. And again, so you can see how many files I can read. Go to display capture here. I have all of these files that I can read. So this is the HyperDeck. And if you go up here to the HyperDeck, you can see, well, let's go to the setup screen, which is this bottom icon down here. You open it up, and here's the HyperDeck. This is the IP address. This is the input that I have it in. You just choose the first input. If you're going to use the alpha key, that's done over here. And then you save it, and as long as it's hooked up, it'll communicate with your ATEM Mini. Again, over here under palettes, you would choose for your downstream key, or I could change this to my upstream key. So I could go back to media player, and I could change the HyperDeck over here to my upstream key and use it instead. So now I can just simply go on air, choose channel 3, turn this off, let you see what's going to happen, and there we go. And dissolve back to camera 2, or head back over to camera 1. And so I can simply do those dissolves. I can put it on my, like I said, upstream key or downstream key, whichever I prefer. If I need to use one of those for something else, then I would have to choose one based on that. So I really like the HyperDeck. It has some great features on the front. We'll finish with kind of the front of this display here. Slideshow is up. So you can see you have on the front face of this, let's go to the larger shot. You have play, stop, record. You have the jog switch, and that lets you jog forward and back. The little wheel on the right lets you jog forward. If you push that jog wheel again twice in a row, then it goes to fast speed, so you can fast forward and slow and fast back, push it again, and then you're just going to go frame by frame. Then below that, you have a forward button, so I can skip clips. And then below that, you have a menu, and inside the menu is all the settings. You can change the codec. You can set up the details from that screen, and then next to that's the set, and you use that to change menus, and you use that to change codecs. So if you want to choose a codec, you hit set, then you scroll the wheel, choose the codec you want, and then you hit the set button, and it's ready to go. So in the back again, you have recording inputs, you have the serial port for mobile control. You can daisy chain them together. You can download firmware updates either through the Ethernet port or through the USB-C port. And you have a power supply. And the last thing I wanted to say is you can do power over Ethernet. So if you do want to power the ATM HyperDeck or the HyperDeck Mini, you can power it through a powered switch. And that's a great solution. One less thing that you have to fight with, one less cord. So I wanted to get this video out. I hope it helps you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll continue to tune in to these videos on the different tools we have in the studio and how we're using them. I'm trying to make those available to you so that maybe some of the questions that I had answered, you won't have to go through all of the same things that I had to go through in order to get all of those answers, because it took hours and hours and hours of research. And it's nice just to have those things already done and ready to go. So this is my Logitech, and this is my Batman and Robin. And with that, we will roll music. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Keith. And I hope that you will subscribe. I hope you'll continue coming into the studio with me as we go through these different pieces of equipment. We can obviously drill down even further on the HyperDeck, which we probably will in the future, but I wanted to give you a basic understanding of how the two channels work. The next video I'll do on the HyperDeck will be how to render a video in After Effects and Adobe Premiere in order to get it ready for the HyperDeck to play live. But if you have any questions, please leave them here in the notes, and we will see you right here in the next video. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful January. See you then.